inaugurate with the greatest names of Allah, who is the most gracious, the most merciful, the Lord of the world, the Master of Judgment Day, and who is conceived as a perfect, singular, immortal, and omnipotent, because if nothing is lost, talk to Allah. If no breath is lost, walk with Allah, so you will never be lost if you trust on Allah. So I am incredibly humbled by this to be acknowledged at this magnitude for something that in reality I have never wanted credit for. And it gives me an immense pleasure to commence this auspicious occasion by heartily welcoming our esteemed chief guest, the director of ISILC, and my dear fellows. As you know better that we all are gathered here for the celebration of final day ceremony, and I appreciate each and everyone who put equal efforts behind the success of ISILC. So before I'm going to motivate you with my practical speech, let me tell you a quotation about my speech. That to have another language is just like possessing a second soul. Let me tell you again, that to have another language is just like possessing a second soul. What does it mean? It means that learning a new language is just like possessing a second soul and a best version of life. Because a new language is a map of culture and helps you know and give us the chances of shifting our perspective on the world. So moreover, the title of my speech is all about the mother of all the languages, the international language that is called English. That what does it mean by English? What is the actual history of English? How to learn English? What are the methods? What are the tips that how to learn English? And what are the major importance of English in our daily lives? Mr. President, English is something that acts as a prominent language in a school subject because English is a global language of communication. English language, it is not a genetic gift. It is not the property of someone. It is not the property of an individual. Because English is a social gift. It is the property of thinking. It is the property of thinking big. It is the property of imagination. Mr. President, English is the most spoken language all over the world and can be spoken in more than 53 countries all over the world. But the learning process of English is complex for many of the people. Why? Because they are getting afraid of making mistakes. So if you want to learn English, then don't be afraid of making mistakes. Because if you are ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better, and do the best. Mr. President, the actual history of English is very fascinating. It classifies English as a Germanic language because English belongs to a Germanic language family. The history of English started with the arrival of 3 Germanic tribes who invaded Britain in the 5th century. 3 tribes, the Angles, the Jutes, and the Saxons, crossed the North Sea, which is now called Denmark and Germany. So at that time, the inhabitants of Britain spoke a Celtic language, but many of the Celtic speakers were pushed to other countries by the invaders. So the Angles came from England and whose language was English. So from the word English, the word English in England are being derived. Mr. President, the importance of English cannot be ignored because English is the most spoken language all over the world and can be spoken as the first language in more than 104 countries. Mr. Speaker, English is the language of international communication and uses as an official language. Mr. Speaker, English is the language of an interview because if you want to give an interview, most of the questions will be asked in English. Mr. Speaker, English is the language of communication, computer, diplomacy, discovery, media, internet, and tourism. Mr. Speaker, English is the language of politics, science, arts, and helps you know that how to exceed in our daily life. So finally, English meets us with different peoples, different communities, in order to understand their civilization, in order to understand their heritages. So I want to end up my speech with a short story. That one day there was a person. There was a person. He met with the king of a jungle that is called lion. The person said to a lion that I have gotten confused about you. The lion said that, oh, which type of confusion you have gotten about me? At that time, the person said to him that I'm confused about you, that how you are the king of the jungle. You are not as clever as fox. You are not as tall as giraffe. You are not as big as an elephant. Then how you became the king of the jungle? At that time, the lion said that actually I believe on myself that I can be the I can be the king of a jungle. So that means that believe is everything. So try to believe on yourself. Try not to leave something in the middle, and continue your journey. Thank you. Assalam.